Welcome to the deep dive. If you're tackling those postgraduate entrance exams, that English reading section can sometimes feel, well, pretty daunting.
It definitely can. Lots of complex texts.
Exactly. So today we're going to really get into one of those, Text 15. We want to equip you with the skills to understand what's going on, avoid that feeling of being overwhelmed.
Right. Think of it as our mission for today. A deep dive into Text 15. We'll look at the main arguments, sentence structures, vocab, everything you need to feel more confident.
Okay, let's get started. Text 15, what's the big picture here?
Well, the central theme is really about the animal rights movement and the threat the author feels it poses to biomedical research.
Mostly because of public misunderstanding.
That's the core argument, yeah. The author sees a gap in public knowledge, and the text structure is quite clear, actually.
How so?
It kicks off with a quote, then lays out the problem as the author sees it, gives an example, and finally suggests some solutions. Pretty logical flow.
Let's talk about that opening quote. It's from Edmund Burke, right?
Yes. About good people doing nothing, allowing, let's say, questionable causes to win, it immediately frames the author's entire perspective.
Suggesting that inaction or lack of understanding from the public could let the animal rights movement, in the author's view, hinder medical science.
Precisely. It sets up this idea that there's a battle for public opinion and medical progress is potentially at stake.
So the main argument is basically animal rights advocates are confusing people. And this confusion is dangerous for health advancements.
That's the crux of it. Because, biomedical research relies heavily on public support, on funding.
And if that support disappears because people are misinformed,
Then research could stall. That's the threat being described.
okay, then there's that anecdote, the woman at the street fair. Why include that?
Yes. The woman who opposes all animal testing thinks computers can just replace it all, even for things like vaccines.
Yeah.
It's used as a kind of microcosm, a snapshot of the public misunderstanding the author is concerned about. It makes the abstract problem feel more real.
So it shows someone well-meaning, but maybe not fully grasping the scientific reality according to the text.
Exactly. It highlights that gap between perhaps compassionate intentions and the practical necessities of medical research as presented by the author.
And the counterargument presented is,
It's all about drawing direct lines. The author emphasizes the connection between animal research and concrete medical successes.
things we often take for granted, like hip replacements, vaccines.
Bypass operations, childhood immunizations, even shots for our pets. The text really lists them out to make the point undeniable.
Okay, and the solutions proposed focus on scientists stepping up their communication game.
Pretty much, it's about direct engagement. Things like visiting schools, writing quick responses to misinformation in the media.
Being more transparent, maybe. Opening up labs for tours.
Exactly that. And even getting patients, the people who've benefited from these treatments, to share their stories. It's about closing that communication gap from multiple angles.
Right. Now, some of these ideas are packed into quite complex sentences. Let's take one. Scientists need to respond forcefully to animal rights advocates whose arguments are confusing the public and thereby threatening advances in health knowledge and care. That's a mouthful.
It is, but we can break it down. Think of the main core part of the sentence.
Scientists need to respond forcefully to animal rights advocates.
Exactly. That's the main message. Everything after the comma just adds more detail about those advocates and their arguments.
Starting with whose arguments?
Right. Whose tells us that arguments belong to the advocates. And these arguments are doing two things: confusing the public and threatening advances.
And thereby just links the confusion to the threat, like cause and effect.
Precisely. It means as a result of that. So because the arguments are confusing the public, they're therefore threatening advances, it connects the actions. Understanding these little connector words is key.
Makes sense. What about specific vocabulary, words like, say, allegations or perplexed?
Good examples. Allegations are claims or accusations, often ones that haven't been proven. So allegations of cruelty suggest these are claims made by one side.
Not necessarily proven facts in the author's framing.
Exactly. And if someone is perplexed, they're just confused or puzzled, like the scientists might be perplexed by the public's reaction.
Okay, and maybe compassionate, like the grandmotherly woman.
Right. Feeling sympathy. Understanding these nuances helps you see the author's tone and how they're positioning the different players in the debate.
Are there any phrases that might trip students up? Maybe ruling out?
Ah, yeah. Ruling out means completely excluding or eliminating something as a possibility. So if animal rights groups are ruling out animal research, it means they want it stopped entirely, no exception.
Got it. What about lest?
Lest is a bit formal, but it means for fear that or in case. So respond quickly lest misinformation spreads means respond quickly to prevent misinformation from spreading. It adds urgency.
Okay. So thinking about students, especially those maybe struggling a bit, what are the common hurdles with a text like this?
Well, sometimes abstract ideas are hard to grasp without concrete examples, though this text actually provides some good ones.
Like the street fair example.
Exactly. Another thing can be emotional appeals. That image of the kind, but perhaps misinformed woman, sometimes emotion can overshadow the logic if you're not careful.
And just seeing that clear connection the author is trying to draw between the research and the medical benefits.
Yes, understanding that causal link A leads to B requires careful reading. It's not always spelled out simplistically. You have to follow the argument.
So wrapping this up, what's the main takeaway for someone studying Text 15 for their exam?
I'd say focus on identifying the main argument. What's the author really trying to convince you of? Then see how they build that argument with reasons, with examples.
And pay attention to sentence structure and those key vocabulary words.
Absolutely. Break down the long sentences, understand what words like thereby or whose or lest are doing. And yeah, building that vocabulary bank always helps. It's about active analytical reading.
Definitely. And maybe a final thought for our listeners to ponder after this deep dive. This text really highlights attention, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
How do we balance the ethical concerns for animal welfare with the undeniable medical advancements that, as the text argues, have come from animal research? It's complex.
It is. There are no easy answers, and being able to dissect arguments like the one in Text 15 is crucial for engaging with these really important societal questions.
A great point to end on. Thanks for diving deep with us today.